Hello and welcome to your in-depth weekly horoscope for week commencing the 1st of August. This is for the Sun or the Ascendant. As we come into this new month, what I'm going to do is give you a flavour of what to expect for us all collectively. But please stay with me as I dive deep to give each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces a much more forensic interpretation. Now, this week does see an incredibly powerful combination of energies in the sign of Taurus. Taurus, of course, is very much about the foundation of our situations. It's about stability. It's a fixed sign. But the North Node, which moved into Taurus on the 18th of January, is almost like the karma of our attitude towards consumption, food, anything to do with consumerism, but it can also be to do with the crust of the planet as well. Now, when we put Uranus in the mix, that can be very much to do with truth, but it can also be to do with confrontation and being much more changeable in a sign that resists change, so that can create tension. And then Mars in the mix, that creates an ignition point, particularly with Uranus. So the potential for weather events that are quite extreme is definitely increased with this combination, and it can make us much more aware of the direction of travel that we're going in terms of, you know, the type of fuels that we've used traditionally and the way that we've perhaps embraced fast food rather than enjoying more rustic consumption of food and making food from scratch. That's much less popular than it ever used to be. I think Uranus can throw some light on all of this and give us a bit of a shock to look at things again. So there can be a lot of tension this week, but also the outcome of our behaviour over a period of time. Now, the Sun and Mercury, of course, the Sun's in its home zone of Leo. Mercury's there at the start of the week, but on Thursday it does move into one of its two signs that it governs, and this one is Virgo. In this case, Mercury is very much about dry precision. This is about attention to detail. And that can be a very good thing. So if you've got a creative idea, but you want to bind it into something that's more workable, then Mercury will certainly help that process. There's also on Friday a quarter moon in the sign of Scorpio. Now, this can bring up some issues to do with jealousy, possessiveness, control in any relationship, but particularly a close personal relationship. For some folks, it could mean that we're going to have a big fascination with someone, particularly with Mars and Uranus in the mix, and it could be something that's very electric, but whether it will be long lasting is another matter. Now, it just so happens that Mars and Saturn are also in a right angle this week. This is really quite challenging. This is where we have Mars, which is very much about moving quickly, instant gratification, coming up against the more resistant energies and limiting energies of Saturn. Saturn in the sign of the collective, Aquarius in a retrograde, Mars in the sign of Taurus, very much about consumption. Quickly, I want it now, that instant gratification. So I think there's going to be some more potential shocks and pushbacks around the cost of living, unfortunately. We could also see some industrial disputes with all this mix of energies, but there is, towards the end of this week, a quite enchanting link between Venus and Neptune, both in water signs, Venus in Cancer, very nurturing, and Neptune in its home sign of Pisces. If you are lucky enough to have that electric connection to someone, but there is also some more spiritual or emotional connection beyond the physical plane, then this could be a really exciting opportunity. For those of us in ongoing relationships, I think the important thing to avoid this week is being too fixed in our ideas, trying to be flexible, with four lots of fixed energy going on with the quarter moon. So we've got the Leo stuff, the Scorpio quarter moon, we've got that cluster of energy in Taurus, plus we've got the Saturn in Aquarius. There's a lot of fixed energy and then a lot of frustration can play out this week. So it's going to be important to try to keep cool But please stay with me for my in-depth examination of your sign. But if you would like to ascend above zodiac astrology and understand more about your personal astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data in terms of your time, date and place of birth, I can give you a roadmap that can guide you for the rest of your life. But beyond that, also in my 30% off special offer package, a 12-month personal horoscope. No 2 charts are ever the same. They're completely individually produced for the person that provides that data. And if you'd like to take advantage of that, please see the link below. Finally, crash through the 100,000 subs mark. We're pretty well nearly at the 101,000 mark, may even be through it by the time you watch this. But if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. If you have done already, thank you so much. So Taurus, your week commencing the 1st of August forecast could, and I really mean this sincerely, be one of the most important weeks of your entire life. Now, if that sounds a little bit of a bold thing to say, the astrology certainly supports it, because the collection of energy in your sign is very galvanizing, and it can push you and prompt you and even provoke you somewhat to make some changes when perhaps you've been resisting the very changes that you're considering for really quite some time. And the reason for that is that you're a fixed sign, of course, which appreciates continuity. You're a very solid citizen. You provide the glue that holds things together. Your steadfastness is something that other people really appreciate. But sometimes it's meant that your disinclination to embrace change has meant that you've stayed with things when the world around you has been changing, or more importantly, the people around you have been changing. And although Pluto may have given you lots of opportunity since 2008 to learn new skills, to educate yourself, to travel more in your mind or in a physical context, I think if there is any part of you that still, despite all those promptings, and Uranus's promptings since 2019 when it moved into your sign full time, if you have been resisting them, they may become irresistible this week. And that could push you to set out on a new, fresh path, or to change something that's actually been possibly very successful for you. But change doesn't mean to say that you need to completely throw away everything that you have. It means that perhaps there needs to be some adaptation, there needs to be greater flexibility and flow in order to deal with a need for those alterations, because otherwise restlessness could really, be very overpowering for you. Now, of course, Mars in your sign is also squaring up to Saturn this week. So even if you want to make those changes, in terms of your professional situation, there may not necessarily be quite the opportunity you want, or if there are opportunities, they may not exactly be in the format which suits you. So it's not as if the change is just going to happen quickly and fall into place exactly as you want. It may need to be incremental, and that may require you to be very patient. The wonderful news, however, is that Mercury moving into your 5th house can see you more outgoing. It can bring a greater sense, your humour, your earthy humour is one of your great gifts, and that can come to the fore more. But the quarter moon, which occurs on Friday, does suggest that there may need to be some very honest conversations, particularly around close relationships. And it may be someone else close to you who's been resisting having a real heart-to-heart, but I think it could be you who really prompts the discussion this week. Now, later in the week, particularly if you're single, that gorgeous link between your ruler Venus and Neptune could see you chatting away to someone you already know, or it could be a friend of a friend, or it could be someone you meet through some kind of shared interest or collective. But there could be a real meeting of the minds and perhaps something more. But don't underestimate just how much sex appeal you're going to be emanating at this time. You really can be enormously desirable. Of course you always are, but it's just going to be turned up to absolute max. Enjoy the attention.